All right. What is going on? Dylan Conrad here, Metabolic AF. I'm joined with Christopher Chris Wirth. I'm super pumped to have you on, man. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Chris, I wanted to have on because he is a mindset coach. He is a motivational speaker working with several college programs right now. He's a author of two great books. Definitely check him out: Positivity Tribe and then Positivity Tribe in the Locker Room. And he's also got his own podcast, and it's called No Quit Living. So it's awesome. He has daily I know you have the guests that are like longer, 30, 45 minutes. And then he also has like daily 2 minute, just like really, really good stuff. I'm listening to one on like affirmations. I was listening to another one on, setting intentions. It's fantastic. Definitely check it out. Pause this right now. Go type in No Quit Living and subscribe, rate that. It's freaking awesome. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words. I'll send you the money that I promised you.
Yes, sir. The 500. So Chris, I really, really wanted to have you on because, I think I always tell my clients it's 80% nutrition, it's 20% training, but it's 100% mindset, right? And so I really wanted to dive in with mindset for you, but maybe you can kind of like lead off with just kind of maybe your overall philosophy on mindset and how we can change it and how we can keep that going when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I think to your point, it hits the fan daily, weekly. I don't know anybody that I've worked with individually or teams that everything just goes perfectly straight.
Right.
It's I'm sure you've seen the meme of what success looks like in people's mind versus what it really is.
Yeah.
But for me, being a former college athlete, I played basketball and tennis in college, and then I coached AU high school and college basketball for quite a few years. There's obviously the physical side of sports. There's obviously being good at whatever your sport is, whatever
Hmm.
your skill is. And those are things that we can work on and we should work on.
Right.
But what most people miss, and I know I did during my playing days, and it wasn't, I'm not one of these woe is me, I didn't have this, didn't have that. But for me, it was always what I was doing on the basketball court or tennis court. I played baseball and football in high school as well, and then in the weight room. And those were really back then the two avenues you had. But over the last 10 to 15 years, this whole mental side of sports performance,
Hmm.
even performance in everyday life, there
Yeah.
are companies out there that bring in mental performance coaches or performance coaches for their sales team, for their leadership teams. And what the shift now is, your mind is a muscle just like a part of your body. And if you don't strengthen it and continue to work it, it's going to decrease a little bit, just like any sport, just like any skill. If you're looking to be a better salesperson and you're going to conferences and you have a coach or you're reading a bunch of books and listening to podcasts, you're strengthening that sales muscle. You're sharpening your saw.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, once you stop doing that, your skill drops. And I think it's the same thing with the mindset and the mental perspective, that people don't realize that, and I know I completely missed it early on, is you can work on your mindset just as you can any skill or any muscle in the body. And it takes time, it takes effort, but the biggest thing I see with clients I've worked with or people that I know that work with others or just really work on themselves, it's the consistency. I think a lot of people do things quickly,
Yeah.
right away, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this," but then all of a sudden it drops off, and it's really hard to be consistent, but the teams and people and individual I've had the opportunity to work with are those that I've studied. The ones that are unbelievably successful are by far the most consistent, and they are also the ones that continually pour into their mindset day in and day out.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, you basically just covered everything, and I know for that's it, we're done. No, but in terms of like, that consistency aspect, and I guess actually let's go back a little bit in terms of, working on that mindset, like what are things we can do and should be doing daily to make sure we kind of have that program. We are working on our mindset daily.
The biggest thing that I look at is systems, routines, and habits of successful people. And
Yep.
they have whether they have a planner that's a paper planner or electronic, they have their schedule set up so they know what they need to do, want to do, and have to do each and every day. And I talk about this all the time, and I've posted a bunch on it. The idea of make time versus find time.
Yeah.
People always talk about, oh, I have to find time for this. And I always kind of, roll my eyes because I've never worked with a client or somebody that has ever found extra time. And I jokingly say when I speak on stages, does anybody has anybody made their bed and flipped over the pillow and all of a sudden there's 2 extra hours?
Yeah.
Obviously, people chuckle and I say, does anybody have an app where you can find an extra 2 hours? And you can't. It comes down to your systems, routines, and your habits, what you consistently do. Now, I want to be very clear. It's not what you do perfectly all the time, but it's what you consistently do and it's what you make time for as opposed to find time. So if you, for example, want to work out and you tell somebody you want to work out and get in better shape, but then over the next 3 days, you don't go to the gym at all, you don't prepare any healthy meals,
Yeah.
you haven't made time for that over the last 3 days. So at that moment, it's not a priority for you. So when you make time for those things and when you're consistent with your systems, routines, and habits, that's when you can have really significant breakthroughs.
Yeah. Do you recommend people like scheduling that or like kind of having a routine or morning routine or a flow and how long should it take? All that stuff.
It's funny. I'm sure you've seen some of those memes that people talk about, like, "Oh, I have my morning routine," and then it's goes through and it says, "Oh, it takes 14 hours." So I definitely recommend a morning routine. But the interesting perspective that I completely dropped the ball on, especially early on in my podcast, I asked I ask almost every single guest if they have a morning routine that they swear by, and I was all excited about becoming a morning routine expert. But what continually happened is all those successful guests I had, they 100% had a very successful and consistent morning routine that they scheduled out,
Yeah.
but they also had a very successful evening routine. And that's what leads into the next morning. And I will say for myself, some of the best morning routines and best workouts I've had in the morning are because the prior night I laid my night out with my evening routine. I got a good amount of sleep. I wasn't drinking a lot of water, alcohol, or watching, a ton of action movies right before bed. And then the flip side is, and you'll probably agree with this as well, when you wake up in the morning and you're groggy and it takes you longer, it's usually because A, you didn't get enough sleep, B, you didn't go to sleep the proper way, or C, you had a completely different change in your schedule. So it's how you bookend your day. And the one thing that I think your viewers and listeners would agree with is there's only a couple times during the day when we really have close to or 100% control of our day. It's the morning before people are texting, calling, and then it's the evening right before bed when kids are asleep, phones are down. So for me, I talk to my clients and especially my athletes how you bookend your day, how you
Oh,
end it the night before, but then how you start it the next morning.
that's so fucking good. Like that's so good. Because I always like for me personally, big morning routine guy. And like there are things I do in the evening. Like I always take a shower in the evening. I always get my gym clothes if I'm going to the gym the next morning, kind of out and laid out. But it's true. It's like the way the better workouts that I've had are because of how I prepared at the night before, and I'm a 5 a.m. workout guy. So if if I'm not about 4:30, like I'm missing my workout for the entire day. So I guess like, you know, you were talking earlier about this get kind of like when you get out of the honeymoon phase, right? When that like the consistency starts to wane, maybe you miss a day that turns into like the next week, 2 days, and you're kind of seeing yourself, oh man, I'm losing motivation. Like what's the kind of the switch that gets to happen there?
Yeah, I wish I had one specific answer or one secret tool, but a few years back, I adapted the idea of never miss more than one. And it sounds great and it sounds like it's really crazy and people are like, "Oh, what is it?" And the simplicity of it is if you miss a workout on a Tuesday, don't make it a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So don't make it more than one. If
Yeah.
you go out with friends and you splurge eating or drinking and you're trying to be more healthy, again, I'm not saying don't care about it, but I'm saying bookmark that one meal so that Thursday night splurge meal and maybe drinking doesn't then turn into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you say, okay, I'm going to get back on the horse on Monday. But there's momentum, both negative and positive. And when you miss one day or one morning routine or one sales call, whatever it is, and it turns into 2 and 3, the momentum, it's like a ball going down the hill.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing on the flip side where you have a really good workout, like you said, you're a 5 AM guy on a Monday, then you have a really good workout on Tuesday. So even if you wake up Wednesday and you feel a little bit tired and maybe you're sore because you've gone hard the last couple days, it's easier to go that 3rd day because you've done a really good day 1, day
Yeah.
2, and it comes down to the concept and my personal coach, a gentleman by the name of Brian Kane, who I think is the best when it comes to mental performance. He talks about movement comes before motivation. And
Mhm.
people always ask me, because I'm a positive guy and I always seem to be going, are you always motivated? And the answer is 100% absolutely not. I wake up days when I'm tired, when I'm sore, when I have maybe a college basketball team I'm working with that has a late game, and all of a sudden you got to wake up the next day.
Right.
But once I get going, it's so much easier to keep going back to the momentum piece, as opposed to if you're sitting in bed, you hit the snooze button once, twice, 3 times. Now all of a sudden, it's that same momentum where you're completely in that lethargic state and you're like, "You know what? I'll just do it tomorrow."
Yeah.
And you end up sitting there, turn the TV on, Netflix or something, and all of a sudden you miss your 5 AM workout and now it's 7:30, 7:45, and you're like, "Oh man, I have to get to work, so I gotta jump in the shower."
Man, I love that. Never miss more than one. And that's so true because like diets and training like aren't broken in like because you missed a workout or because like you had a bad meal or whatever. It's that weekend. And I think everyone listening to that can really like understand that firsthand because it's happened to them, and it's like kind of they're going into that all in, all out mindset, like oh, I'm perfect. And, if I miss a day, like whatever, I missed a day. So I'm just going to miss the next day. And then, well, I'll just get back on it Monday, and that's like such a human behavior thing. But, in terms of integrating these mindset things daily and how important that is, I want to hear what your morning routine is and what your evening routine is.
So, um, I'm a crazy morning guy. I don't think you and I spoke about this last week, but I used to get up really early and I follow a bunch of people that get up early. And it's not from that get up early just to get up early. It's for me getting up early so I have more time with 0 interruptions. So I've continually moved my wake up time earlier and earlier. So you'll probably laugh. So I used to get up at between 3 and 3:30 for a long time in the morning, and I changed my alarm about 6 months ago to 2:59 in the morning because I wanted to be able to say, even though it's literally 60 seconds from 3 AM to 2:59, I wanted to be able to say that I got up at in the 2 o'clock hour. But first thing I do is I get dressed. I have my pre-workout on the way to the gym. I'm a crazy early morning gym. My gym is actually 24 hours. You have a key card for
Yeah.
access. So I love that. It's my uninterrupted time. Then I finish my workout. I do I do a 10-15 minute sauna. Then I shower at the gym. About 2 months ago, I bought a cold plunge. I'm
Love it.
in up in the Northeast, so it's really cold during the winter, but my cold plunge is outside, so I don't need right now, I don't need any ice. It stays between basically 20, 28, 29 degrees to 40 degrees. I do a quick cold plunge anywhere from a minute and a half to 5 minutes, and then I shower, get dressed, go to the office, and I have a journal routine. I have my own planner that I created a couple years ago. It's called the Clear Planner.
Oh, yeah.
there's 2 pages on it, but what I do is I schedule my day, and part of my day always, unless I'm traveling or something on an airplane, is I always make time for my morning routine. Now, some days it's longer, some days it's not. I struggled myself mentally because I used to always look in that all or nothing. So if I didn't get the full 45 minutes, then it would be a quote unquote failure. Now I look at it completely the opposite, where a 10-minute specific, very intentional morning routine is better than 0 minutes. And then I
100%.
go throughout my day. I have three kids from freshman, 7th grade, and 5th grade, and they all have games and things. So that kind of dictates a little bit of my evening. But I always try to do my evening routine, which is I go through my clear planner. There's a reflection component of it. I have a journal. I'll look through some of the days. I'll write some things down. But then the biggest thing for me that I've found has been unbelievably helpful for me is looking at my day the next day, the night before. So
Mm,
I know where I need to be.
yeah,
In my mind, I'm then preparing my mind to say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to have, instead of 45 minutes of the morning routine, maybe I'll get 30. But then at I also lay out my workout this year. One of the things I'm trying to be specific is planning out each workout. So specifically I know what I'm doing. So I maximize that time. But again, that's the ideal evening routine. And when I'm traveling for work or working with some college teams, sometimes you have to do it in a hotel, so it's not a comfortable place. Obviously, there's not cold plunges and saunas at every hotel and things like that. So for me, it's looking at being consistent and being okay with not having a perfect 7 for 7 each week, but looking on the lines of how can I the best prepare for what's coming ahead. And if I'm going to miss a sauna or a couple cold plunges, I'm not going to worry about it or stress about it because I can't control it, but I'm not going to allow one missed or two missed because I'm traveling to then turn into, well, it's now Friday. I just got back. I'll
right,
start over Monday. If I
right.
miss Thursday and Friday, I say, okay, I'm going to start over tomorrow.
Yeah, progress over perfection,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that you brought up one thing, your kids. You have 3 kids, right? And what I love about you, Chris, is last time we were talking, we were trying to schedule this, and you're like, "Oh, I got my daughter's, she's in middle school and she has this basketball game. It's this time, so I can't do that." But and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," because you kind of think about people like yourself that are really successful. Like if you follow Chris, like he's got a really great business. He's got he's pretty shredded, and you've got this whole mindset about you, but like it's I think we kind of have this limiting belief about ourselves like, oh, I can't have everything. I can't have the great relationships with my family. I can't have, the successful business. I can't, get in shape at the same time. How do you kind of like restructure that in someone's mind to kind of smash that limiting belief?
Yeah, we have 3 steps that we use for not only success, but also for goal accomplishing. So I'll answer it in 2 ways. I think we are set as Americans from an early age how to set goals and dreams. What do I want to be when you get older? Where do you want to go to high school, college? Do you want to be in this career, this field? But where we miss it is what do we then have in regards to the skills and tools so we can accomplish it? So I have a concept that it's the difference between being a goal setter versus being a goal getter. And for me, the biggest component is you have to believe it first. So the 3 steps process is number 1, believe. You really and truly have to believe it, that mindset. Number 2 is you need to have that strategy, that plan. And number 3 is the execution and the action. So for somebody that's listening or watching and they're wanting to change something, you really have to believe that you can do it. Now, I want to be clear, don't go about it, especially with this weight loss or getting in shape or sales, whatever it is, that, oh, I'm going to do this overnight. I'm going to, on a Monday, I'm going to start, and Tuesday I'm going to be great. You had mentioned before weight loss and missing one day. I've been doing a lot of work in the fitness world. I don't know anybody that became overweight because they had one really bad meal.
Yeah.
Now, I also don't know anybody that was super overweight and then just had an amazing Tuesday and then they woke up Wednesday completely shredded. It goes back to the consistency. But when you start a routine or a new workout program, you first and foremost have to believe that you can do it. Not to the point that it's going to happen overnight and it's going to be super easy, but the idea that if I stick to step two, which is that strategy and that plan, if I consistently do it, not perfect for the next 61 days, I don't miss a single thing, but if you're doing this, let's say for 60 days, if you
Yeah.
look back on those 60 days, the most successful people typically have between 55 to 56, 57 really, really good days. And they have those 2 or 3 days where they drop the ball a little bit. But when you look at the longevity of those 60 days, if you're operating at a high level for 55 of them, you're going to be successful if you stick to that plan and you stick to that strategy. But then the next step is you need to execute it, right? So having that belief is super important. Having that mindset is a key foundational component of it. And then the strategy and plan, whether you hire a coach like yourself or you have a mentor, that's hugely important. But a lot of people stop there where they say, okay, I've done the work in my mind, I've read the books, listened to the podcasts such as yours. Okay, I have this strategy, this plan, I bought this program, I'll start on Monday. Or you know what? I don't want to do it in January because it's too busy. And a lot of times people don't take that step of action. And that's the biggest disconnect is you can't have one of the three steps and expect to be successful. You
Right.
need to have all three of them. But again, you don't need to be perfect in any way, shape, or form, but you do need to be consistent.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the end of the day, it's like it just goes back to consistency and it not being perfect. Like if you need to get it in, just get it in. It's like we can have all this stuff, but like you were saying, it's just the first thing is believing, because if you don't believe you can't, right? It's like you're not going to. How do we kind of get that in our mind? Like, are there morning routine things that you kind of implement so we can start believing more in ourselves, or like kind of maybe more I don't know, mindset tricks that you kind of do, not tricks, but like practices that you there's no tricks, there's no
Well, I actually like the word trick because I think in some ways you are tricking yourself to
for sure.
continue to go. You are tricking yourself that, okay, I know physically I don't want to do this. I know I'd much rather eat a pizza or have 5 beers, but you trick yourself into it. So I'm a big believer in visualization. I have a vision board both at my office and at my house. I have goals that are typed up, printed, different pictures, different quotes. So I'm a big visual guy. What you see, and if you continually see it, it's very important because on those days you don't feel like doing it, those days you don't want to, you're able to say, okay, I know I don't want to do it today, but that goal or that objective or that achievement is something I want more than not achieving it. So big into visualization. I'm also big into affirmations. I'm sure you've heard it, but the concept of the idea that it is so much more important to talk to yourself than it is to listen to yourself.
Mm,
Because when you listen to yourself, you hear doubt, you hear
yep.
stress, you hear that anxiety. But when you flip it around and say, okay, I don't want to work out today, but I'm going to,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to not have pizza on Friday, but I want to get in the best shape of my life. So affirmations, and they're so different for different people.
Yeah.
Some of my clients actually will take their iPhone out or their phone and actually record some of those affirmations and listen to them in the morning or the evening. I do that in the morning. I have 2 different affirmations that I continually, um, play to myself over and over again, and it's incredibly powerful because it's the systems, routines, and habits. It becomes part of what you do consistently on a day-by-day basis, and those days when you don't want to, it's that Tuesday when you missed a Tuesday, now all of a sudden it's Wednesday, and you look at your vision board or you look at your planner or your journal, or you play those affirmations and you convince yourself that, "Okay, I know I don't want to, but I'm going to do it today because I don't want to miss 2 days or 3 days. So I made that commitment to myself. I'm going to do it." And then one thing that I'm a huge believer is the idea of accountability partners. So if anybody is hearing this right now or watching it and you feel that you need that extra kick in the butt, I would 100% suggest you reach out to somebody that you know and you trust that they will really hold you accountable. Doesn't need to be a friend or a family member or a coworker. It can be, but the most important perspective of an accountability partner is somebody that's really going to hold your foot to the fire when you say, you know what, Dylan, I want to work out 4 days this week. So now you and I are checking in on Thursday, and you say, Chris, how many days have you worked out? I said, I've only got one in. You hold me accountable and say, okay, Chris, I want you to text me a picture later when you finish your workout. And then tomorrow, when you finish your workout, I want you to text me a picture of you at the gym or you finishing on the treadmill. And it's free, doesn't cost you anything. I know some incredibly successful people that have utilized these type of accountability partners. Some people have masterminds they're a part of, but the idea is being open and honest with not only yourself, but that other person or those other people, and ask them to hold me accountable to these two, three, or four things. And it's not a one-way street. So if you and I were accountability partners, you're going to hold me accountable to these two, three, or four things. But then again, once we cross that street, I'm asking you, okay, Dylan, you know my four things. What are your three or four things for the next 2 weeks that you want me to hold you accountable to?
Absolutely. And two things that stood out, but one thing I wanted to brush on was, you were talking about the accountability partner, and like, yeah, it can be friends and family, but it's gotta be someone that really would hold your feet to the fire. And for me, when I first got started in my career, I think one of the reasons I was able to accelerate so fast is because I got mentors. I was just like, who's successful? That person. And I'll just like, hey, can you mentor me? And for me, it was really just about having that mentor-mentee communication, like someone I looked up to, that if I didn't do something, I would feel bad and like kind of ashamed, It was like someone that was expecting things from me to do things and was personally invested too. What's your thoughts on you know, how to find a mentor or how to if you should go that route at all?
Yeah, so I was just on a podcast last weekend, and the person asked me almost the exact same question. I answer it a couple different ways, but what you shared is really spot on. And I did the same thing in my career. I looked up to those people, or I found those people that were already down the road, whether it's
Right,
1, 5, 10, 20 years down the road.
right,
And I tried to connect with them in a very personable but respectful way. So, for example, if I wanted you to be a mentor or be one of my accountability partners, I'm not going to just call you out of the blue and say, "Hey, Dylan, I love your stuff, blah blah blah. Can you mentor me? I'm thinking 2 hours every week. Let's go." And you're like, "What the heck?" So you have to first and foremost identify those one, two, or three people
yeah,
that you would want to be a mentor or an accountability partner. Then see if you can establish a relationship with them, and then see if they'd be willing to help you out. I can say this for anybody that has that doubt or fear. Maybe you just pictured somebody or two people that, okay, I want this person to be a mentor or an accountability partner. Some of the most successful people that you and I and your audience watch and follow on social media or on TV, they've had unbelievable mentors along the way, that maybe it was their first person that introduced them to this, or maybe it was somebody that made the best introduction where they got their biggest deal or biggest sale. So
right,
more often than not, those people that maybe you don't think would be willing, they've had multiple people in their own life that have really been foundational for them, and they're willing to return the favor. Now, again, the word I used before was respectful. So if I'm trying to have you as a mentor, for me, we establish a little bit of a rapport. Maybe we talk a couple times, but then it's tough to ask. It's hard to ask. So I would suggest anybody to do it in a respectful way of the other person and their time. So it's something simple as, Dylan, we've been talking the last couple weeks. I meant to ask you, I don't know if you have time in your schedule, but I'd be honored if you'd be willing to mentor me as I'm looking to take my coaching or fitness business to the level that you have.
Yeah.
if you are open to it, I will work on your schedule. So if it's once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever works. But I'd be unbelievably grateful if you'd be willing to mentor me. And again, that's very different than just coming off and saying, "Hey, Dylan, will you mentor me or be my accountability coach?"
Totally. And I think like, even I was just thinking about in terms of, a lot of the mentors I had were paid, in those mastermind groups I've been a part of. What are your thoughts on like putting in a financial aspect, putting your own skin in the game to get mentored?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just talking to one of my individual clients yesterday, and she just joined a paid networking group, and in the past, she had joined a couple that weren't paid. But what she was talking about was, well, I want a little bit of a difference, and so I just challenged her. I love to challenge myself, my clients, but I said to her, I said, well, let me challenge you. You've had little to no success in the past. There are some of these higher echelon networking groups that are paid. Would you be willing to put some skin in the game? And we went back and forth a bit. She actually just had her first meeting today. It went really well. She's really excited that she joined. But I think sometimes you have to get way outside of your comfort zone. And now I'm not in any way telling everybody that, mortgage the house or, sell everything to get in some of these crazy networking groups. But I am going to say that, or masterminds, but some of the most successful people are the ones that have paid for a group here, paid for a coach, and you can see that they continually level up. But it's goes into that skin in the game, but it also the science behind it. And I think you know this from your business. When you pay for something, unless you're a multimillionaire, when you pay for something and you're really investing your money into something, the success percentage goes up dramatically as
Dramatically.
opposed to if you and I are just talking casually once a month
Right.
and buddies, as opposed to if I'm paying you for your time every 2 weeks, you can bet the farm that I'm gonna have my stuff done and I'm gonna have it done in advance because I hate to waste money and like I said, some of the most financially successful people, they've worked incredibly hard for their money. They hate to lose or waste money just as much as
Yeah.
people, a little bit below them. So I would say if you are really contemplating a coach, a program, a mastermind type group, and there is some financial cost to it, I would suggest if it's something that you can afford, if you're really looking to make that next step, I would suggest you doing it because it could be the difference of, you having a pretty good year in 2024 versus having your best year ever.
For sure. You can easily double, if not triple, if not 10x, within a year, especially if you're a business owner, but, obviously anyone trying to change their health and physique, like you can make a lot of progress in a full year. And I've noticed one thing in my business, as I've increased my rates over time, the better and better and better results got. Like, yeah, we've learned, we obviously we do a lot of con ed, we do a lot of like new stuff, but the nuts and bolts are still the same in the program. It's still nutrition, it's still training, it's still accountability coaching, and the results have been way better when people have more skin in the game. It's kind of sting a little bit. And perfect segue for you, Chris. Like someone that's out there listening to this right now and it's like this guy, you know, this guy could be a game changer for me because I want to achieve all these things in my life. I want to have great relationships, family, personal life, social life, business, fitness, nutrition, all that stuff. How can someone work with you? Like, who do you work with, and how can someone get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a great question. And it kind of used to be back when I got in the business, and probably you'd say the same. Was like, oh, I'll work with anybody. And the reality is, when you're starting off anything, you need to get sales, especially as an entrepreneur. But my biggest takeaway for that is, I love to work with people, all different walks of life, all different ages, entrepreneurs to 9 to 5 type individuals, but also high school, college athletes, college coaches. But the biggest kind of asterisk and need is somebody that's willing to put the time and effort, knowing that it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy, it's not going to be overnight. But if you're looking to make that change, or if you're looking to level up, whether it's personally, professionally, regardless of the area, we work with people from all walks of life. We also do a lot of group coaching, team coaching. So whether it's a sales team, whether it's a leadership team, and HR teams looking to make improvements. But the biggest component is you have to be willing and capable to follow systems and plans so you can take action on those things. And I love meeting new people. I love connecting with people, but it's a great question because a lot of times people don't ask those type of questions where it's like, who's your type of ideal client? And I
Right.
always ask on the flip side is if we were talking, having coffee, and you asked me that, I'm going to ask you the exact same question and be like, all right, Dylan, who's an ideal client? That's the one thing I ask. But then the second thing I ask, which I didn't always, is who's not an ideal client. And the reason I say that is I'd rather give you or anybody three great introductions as opposed to nine introductions and six of them just be complete miss.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the difference between like I gotta say I've done a lot of different coaching in the past, like, business and I've done more mindset coaching and the biggest benefit to my business and to my, health has always been mindset because that's where it all starts. It all starts from there and kind of branches out. I'll put kind of I guess your contact information, all that stuff. Definitely give Chris follow Instagram if you want to definitely see him do a cold plunge. It's pretty badass. You can see how freezing is. And I know we were talking last time, so I'll put that all in the show notes. Or how to get a hold of him, follow him. Definitely listen to his podcast. It's phenomenal. He's got daily episodes coming in, full interviews. You interviewed someone last week. He was on The Voice or
Oh, America's Got Talent, Dustin Tavella.
fantastic interviews. A really good interview. You're a great interviewer. Your content and what you put out both on your Instagram and on your podcast, phenomenal. I'll put it in the show notes. You guys definitely need to tune in, listen. Obviously, if you're looking to work with a coach like Chris, hit him up. He's got an amazing team. And yeah, is there anything else I'm missing out?
No, the 500 I owe you is now 1,000, but
I
I
know.
always leave my personal email address as well. It's chris@noquitliving.com. I've been doing that literally for the last couple of years. I've been on a bunch of podcasts. I'm extremely grateful when I get to be on the other side. But the reason I do that is I've had some amazing conversations from people that reaching out on different platforms. And I think the crazy perspective, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, is where technology is today, you're literally one email, one direct message, one phone call away from that potential huge client, huge opportunity, huge relationship. So I would encourage anybody, not just for me, but if there's somebody that you were thinking about as maybe a potential accountability partner or a mentor, you know, there's never been an easier way to connect. Now, again, I don't mean you send one email and you're going to be best friends with The
Right.
Rock and Michael Jordan, but it's never been easy to have access to establish a relationship with people today than it ever has been.
David Goggins.
Yes.
He's gonna be on your pod soon. I feel it.
And, I'm going to put this out there. So you asked if I had anything else. Any listeners out there, viewers, if you know Goggins, I've been trying for the last 4 years to get Goggins on. So I would love to work out with him. And people are like, oh, I'm not saying I'm going to beat him. I'm not saying I could do 4 hours more than him, but I would say that regardless of what we do, whether it's running, pull ups, full on workout, I'm literally gonna go till I can't go anymore, and it's gonna be that point. If he's still going, I'm gonna be like like Goggins, could you, call, an ambulance or something? Because I can't.
Yeah, it's he's great. I saw him on Huberman last week. I feel like
That was
that's
awesome.
it was awesome. I think that's the route in Huberman to Goggins, But
Well, he's only done 2 podcasts in the
I
last year
know.
and a half. He
Yeah.
did Rogan a second time, and he did Huberman. So, maybe No Quit Living will be the third. That'd be awesome.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and yeah, just kind of leaving it on that. Thank you so much for hopping on. I know obviously you're super busy and there's so many knowledge bombs. I was like thinking about it while I'm interviewing you the whole time. Like, this is gonna be really hard to get like a teaser on because there's just so many different parts. I'm like, oh, that'd be good. Oh, that'd be good. Oh, that'd be good. You know, from like when you said, you know, the voice in your head versus what you tell yourself, from accountability coaching to mentors to all the stuff that we covered today, the belief, the systems, the strategies. I know that everyone walking away will get so much value from this, and it will change their day and hopefully their life for good. And yeah, man, I just really appreciate you. I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you hopping on, and I'm just super grateful for you.
No, I appreciate you, and for your listeners, we're gonna flip the script actually tomorrow. We're gonna record. Dylan's gonna be on my podcast, so that'll be a couple weeks from the time this probably gets released. So hopefully, we'll get some back-to-back followers. The term I use, listeners, excuse me, is a home and home.
Yeah.
It's rare that you interview people that have a podcast or that fits within your scope, and so I'm glad that. Extremely grateful for the opportunity. And for your listeners, if you liked this episode at all, definitely check out my upcoming episode with Dylan, because I know it's going to be awesome.
Subscribe right now. Give yeah, definitely like rate, review. Once you listen to Chris's, you're not gonna be disappointed. It's fantastic. The 2 minute little things are like you could do that part of your morning routine. You know, I was just thinking about that. Like that'd be such a good way to put that positive and then do some journaling and all that stuff. It's I think it's great. So yeah, thanks again, man. I'm super pumped to be on yours. Again, I'm gonna put all how to find you, everything in the show notes. So if guys listening to that. But pause this right now. Go to No Quit Living. Give it a follow on all platforms where other podcasts are available. So again, Chris, thank you so much, brother, for helping out. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.